where I was met at the door by an alien being.
We'll take you to America's UFO capital.
It is an intense area for UFO activity.
And we'll talk to level-headed scientists who admit we're not alone.
There are guardian angels or guardian extraterrestrials, or whatever you want to call them, who are looking over each and every one of us.
Exclusive Alien Nation. Everyone, I'm Maureen O'Boyle. Welcome to A Current Affair for this Thursday, April 23rd. Tonight, we're going to examine a subject that has sparked more controversy and argument than almost any other. UFOs. Are they real? Well, surveys show nearly 50% of you believe that UFOs do exist. After this program, that number might be a little larger. While we were investigating this exclusive story, A Current Affair went to Gulf Breeze, Florida, a town known as one of the most active UFO areas in the country. While we were there, our cameras captured something unexplainable.
Why? Look, there it goes! It's fading. It's like it's moving. It's blinking! Come on, closer!
Yeah.
Come on! Come back! It's signaling, I'm telling you.
We aren't the only ones intrigued by those mysterious lights. Robin Dorian met some dedicated sky watchers when she visited the town they call UFO Central.
Gulf Breeze, Florida, just 2 miles long and half a mile wide. A tiny coastal town situated on the shores of Florida's Panhandle, a town that seems to have been selected by visitors, but not just any tourists.
It is an intense area for UFO activity. There's no doubt about that.
They are interested in us helping the world become aware.
The matter was going down, or the craft was going straight up.
Gulf Breeze has become a center for UFO activity. Residents are determined to find out why. In the last 12 months, they've documented 122 unexplained sightings, an average of 1 every 3 days. Last week, we sent our producer, Lila McMurray, and a crew to investigate the UFO phenomenon in Gulf Breeze, Florida. And in the evening on 2 consecutive days, they saw what can legitimately be described as unidentified flying objects. On the sands overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, our crew videotaped these incredible pictures.
Why? There it goes! Why? I'm talking to it. Okay, who's got a light?
On the right side of it. We were looking over the water up in the sky, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this red light appeared. I was kind of shocked by it because I didn't see it coming from the ground, or I didn't see it coming up, down, anywhere. It just appeared. And someone handed me binoculars. And when I looked through the binoculars, I could see a ring of 6 red lights.
Our crew is not the only objective observer tantalized by UFOs at Gulf Breeze. Art Hufford is a chemical engineer, a scientist with a professional bias towards hard facts. His sighting led him to join and later become president of the Pensacola Mutual UFO Network. Called MUFON, it is a non-profit organization dedicated to scientific research of UFOs.
Look!
My interest in UFOs began in November of 1987 as a result of my wife and I having a sighting late one afternoon. We were driving on the way home, and suddenly above treetops ahead of us we saw this object craft. I think in this area the total number of witnesses at one time was up to about 500.
We weren't ready to say automatically that this was something that was from outer space or from another planet.
Patty Weatherford is an auditor for the state of Florida. She became interested in UFOs after what she claims was a bizarre experience.
I remembered waking up, or semi-waking up, and the room, my bedroom, was just filled with light, which is brilliant white light. People need to just start opening their minds a little bit.
Those who have opened their minds to the subject of UFOs include Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, former astronaut Gordon Cooper, and any number of aviators and scientists. Credible people seeking documented answers, just as in Gulf Breeze.
I've had enough sightings now that have indicated to me there is definitely an object there. We're not just seeing a light fly in the sky.
Most Gulf breeze sightings occur at night, and many locals spend their evenings searching the night sky for evidence of UFOs. And the evidence they have found is mounting. These home videos record 6 separate UFO sightings. Watching them would give even the firmest skeptic time to pause.
Oh, look, it's brighter, brighter.
The one on the right is going down a little bit, and the one on the left's coming up.
Oh!
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, it's kind of green. It's got a green halo around it, doesn't it?
Oh, boy, that is close tonight.
Dr. Bruce Maccabee has a PhD in optical physics. He works for the military and has studied the Gulf breeze phenomenon.
In September, I decided to go down and go to Gulf Breeze and see for myself what was going on. I looked up, and sure enough, here was a whitish light up there, and I put the binoculars up, and I could see an elliptical ring of 8 points of light. It lasted for about 70 seconds and then just faded out.
While we were in Gulf Breeze, we went to the beach after sundown to inspect the skies. And when we captured these unexplained lights on videotape, there were other witnesses as well.
We saw the red light appear, and I could see 2 lights to begin with. It stayed for about 2.5 minutes, and all of a sudden turned a brilliant white. And when it did that, it lit up, and I could see craft above it. It was kind of an oval shape. It was beautiful to me. It's the first time I've seen it.
We was over there just, fishing, and we saw what everybody else saw, like a red star is what it kind of looked like as far off in the distance as it was, but...
It's like it kind of got bright and then
bright and dim
and then went away and came back.
Then when it did that, I don't know, it got real bright, like a greenish white type light, and burned out, and then it came back a few minutes later, and I don't no idea what it was.
Skeptics attribute the lights in the sky to the military. Eglin Air Force Base is located just east of Gulf Breeze, but if the military is involved in any covert operations, we will probably be the last to know. The Air Force refused to speak with us or even offer any explanations.
If it is a military test in Gulf Breeze, it seems awfully strange to me that the military would be testing their objects or their prototypes in people's backyards.
For now, the origins of these lights are left an unexplained mystery, leaving skeptics to question and believers to prove.
When we come back, we'll meet people from other American towns who claim they've experienced close encounters.
The next thing I knew, I was on the craft lying down on a table.
Very dark eyes, black, large eyes, a little slit for a mouth.
They say they were beamed up into space, and this professor says they have their feet firmly planted on the ground.
We have to begin to deal with this. We can't just play ostrich anymore. You just can't bury your head in the sand.
A journey into the unknown, next. We showed you video of unidentifiable lights in the sky. We met people who claim those lights are UFOs and say they see them all the time. But what about the next step? What about people who claim they've been aboard UFOs? Until now, that has been so hard for so many of us to believe. But some scientists are beginning to sit up and listen to America's claims of extraterrestrial abductions. Robin Dorian has more exclusive tales in her special investigation, Alien Nation.
We have been invaded.
I was abducted by a UFO.
I believe they need something from us, and they're going to get it.
Alien abductions and space creatures have long been fodder for sci-fi films, and sometimes they seem as suspect as these Hollywood special effects. But recent university research reveals that these close encounters may be more firmly grounded in fact than in fiction.
We do know that people appear to be being abducted. If these beings simply stop whatever they're doing and go away, that would be the best of all possible scenarios.
Dr. David Jacobs is a professor of history at Temple University in Philadelphia. He has been involved in the study of UFOs for more than 20 years. And in his book, Secret Life, he explores the accounts of 60 people's claims of 300 alien abduction experiences.
We find it to be very unsettling and very disturbing, and quite frankly, I wish that we weren't finding what we find.
What Dr. Jacobs found were bizarre accounts from doctors, lawyers, and business people, all claiming to have been taken aboard a spacecraft by small alien creatures. Jacobs is certain hundreds of thousands of people have been secretly abducted over and over again for purposes beyond human comprehension.
Most people will describe that they will be floated directly through a closed window. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, and physically, of course, it can't be done, but they all yes.
Dr. Jacobs put us in touch with people who claim they have had abduction experiences. They are reluctant to speak, having been ridiculed for their stories before. Still, they feel compelled to tell of their experiences.
An abduction that stands out in my memory was when I was between 5 and 6 years old. I was swinging, and as I was swinging up and back and then up, I was taken up onto a spaceship where I was met at the door by an alien being, walked down a hallway into a room where a physical examination was performed on me.
The most vivid account I have of an abduction was when I was about 8 years old. I was walking toward the house one afternoon after playing out back, and I looked up and saw a craft, your typical silver disc UFO. The next thing I knew, it seemed like a split second later, I was on the craft lying down on a table.
I remember very vividly being in my crib. A very bright bluish-white light comes through the window. Then I hear a voice telling me that everything's going to be okay and I shouldn't be afraid and I shouldn't be scared and I should continue to look at the light.
Dr. David Jacobs claims that abductions occur in many cases while people are driving. They suddenly feel an overwhelming urge to go to a secluded area.
You look out the door and there is an object off to the side of the road. Get out of the car, walk towards the object, and already the event has started. You're in their control.
2 years ago, I was driving home. I took a shortcut down a deserted road. At one point, these headlights came up at me and literally forced me off the road. The next thing I remember, I got in the house and I called a friend of mine just because I guess I needed a reality check. I couldn't figure out what was going on. And he asked, you know, when did this all happen? And I said, oh, about 15 minutes ago. And when I told him what time I thought it was, he informed me that it was over 2 hours later.
Aaron and other abductees have illustrated their experiences with drawings, and their descriptions are astonishingly similar.
The alien was probably a little taller than I was at the time, maybe 4.5 feet. No hair, very large head, very dark eyes, black, large eyes. A little slit for a mouth, very thin, sort of grayish.
They were large-headed, large black eyes, no or very small noses and mouth.
There's not any single case that did it. What it is a slow accumulation of case after case after case where people from around the country say basically the same exact thing.
Skeptics claim these tales are spun by psychologically unsound people, people who either want attention or somehow want to profit from their stories. Dr. Jacobs and the abductees insist that is not the case.
There has been psychological testing of a number of subjects. In each case, they have come out being as normal and normal people in every way with no signs of pathology.
There's nothing that I've gained. No. There's just no point in coming clean with something like this unless I feel it to be the absolute truth.
We have to begin to deal with this. We can't just play ostrich anymore. You just can't bury your head in the sand and saying it's too crazy, therefore it's not happening.
Later in the show, we'll give you the chance to vote on the UFO controversy. But up next, the family doctor who says he was branded sick in the head when he made a startling confession about aliens.
Extraterrestrials and angels requested of me, we want you to remember your contacts with us.
We'll also hear from the expert who's shooting down spaceship tales.
Not one of these people has come back with any new, novel, significant scientific information.
Those stories when we come back. Obvious lights in the sky. Would you tell anyone? Maybe not, because you might be afraid no one would believe you. As part of her exclusive report, Alien Nation, Robin Dorian met a man who dared to tell the world he believed in UFOs. And he found out there was a price.
There are guardian angels or guardian extraterrestrials, or whatever you want to call them, who are looking over each and every one of us.
Meet Scott Corder, a physician who believes that he was contacted by aliens. In his opinion, it cost him dearly. 3 years ago, the Kansas Board of Healing Arts suspended his license to practice medicine.
I knew that I'm never crazy, and these are just some of my beliefs.
Dr. Corder remembers a dream he had, which he later felt was real.
Extraterrestrials or angels requested of me, we want you to remember your contacts with us, because a lot of people blank it out.
This past week, Dr. Corder got his license back, but his case illustrates how most in the scientific community react to UFOs and extraterrestrials. They want concrete evidence, and until someone can come forward with indisputable proof of alien visitations, it is almost impossible for people to believe their stories as true.
The question is, should we accept these reports as true independently? And if we were to do so, as scientists, we would say, what is the evidence? And when you look for corroboration, it's very difficult to find that.
Paul Kurtz is a fellow of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. He is also chairman of the Committee for the Scientific Investigation of the Claims of the Paranormal. According to Kurtz's studies, 90 to 95% of UFOs can be explained as planets, meteor showers, or flares, identified flying objects. 5 to 10% of the reports are unexplained.
Is it extraterrestrial? I don't think we have enough evidence to say it is.
Even NASA is backing the search for the unknown, financing $100 million for a program called SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Still, cynics refuse to believe.
Not one of them, not one of these people has come back with any new, novel, significant scientific information.
Phil Klass is a renowned UFO skeptic and believes it's not UFOs to fear.
The harm is not that people believe in UFOs, but rather if people join up with some of these UFO abduction cult groups, that is where the danger comes.
The stories we have brought you have revealed themselves in very disturbing ways. In Gulf Breeze, Florida, our own crew captured unexplained lights in the sky.
White, look, there it goes!
And a university professor introduced us to people who have been ridiculed for telling stories about alien abduction, stories which are strikingly similar. Skeptic or believer, we are left with many unexplained questions, and with one simple answer. We know what we saw.
And so do you. Well, we'll be right back with a chance to make your voice heard on this controversial subject. We set up a 900 number so you can answer a very simple question on this burning issue. Do you believe in UFOs? If you do, call 1-900-786-8181. 1-900-786-8181. If you don't, call 1-900-786-8282. 1-900-786-8282. Each call costs 75 cents, and we'll let you know the results tomorrow. We also have this coming up on Friday's show. Caught in the skies over Florida's Panhandle.
White, look, there it goes! It's fading. It's like it's moving. It's blinking!
We also asked if you believe in UFOs. Of the calls that came into our special phone hotline, an amazing 93% voted yes. That's almost twice the national average. Just 7% of the calls were no votes.
Defense spending is being scrutinized as never before. Tonight, do we need warplanes that are incredibly fast, agile, and still top secret? NBC's Fred Francis has exclusive details.
Tom, there are a lot of billion-dollar Pentagon secrets that many four-star generals don't know. How about this one? Something that moves at 6 times the speed of sound and was used against Iraq.
KNX News Time, 9:13.
Don't know for sure what made the ground move around 7 o'clock this morning, but seismologists say it was not an earthquake.
The pre-dawn rumbling that has confused millions of Southern Californians was the sound of their tax dollars flying by. NBC News has learned the sonic booms are coming from top-secret reconnaissance planes with revolutionary engines, codename Aurora. They look something like this. They have been tracked 5 times since last summer crossing the Los Angeles basin. Jim Morey, a Caltech seismologist, says the plane's sonic booms trigger his instruments every time.
When we see one, it seems like we see 2 of them coming in together, so it seems to be 2 aircraft flying together.
Defense sources say the secret planes replaced the vaunted SR-71 Blackbird, retired in 1990. NBC News has been told the aircraft can fly at almost 5,000 miles an hour. And one Pentagon source said the F-117s were aided by Aurora over Iraq during the Gulf War. The Pentagon won't talk about that or any of its so-called black airplanes. You see, for decades, those California mountains, this vast Nevada wasteland, the desert's dark nights have hidden a succession of Pentagon secrets, hidden exotic airplanes, paid for with black budgets that only a few dozen people ever see. And only a few dozen civilians ever see the planes, which are hidden at bases like this, Groom Lake, Nevada, and kept in large hangars during daylight. This is exclusive NBC News night vision video of one of those secret flying machines. Not Aurora, but something that seems to defy the laws of physics. Hundreds of witnesses have seen the bright light hovering motionless over mountains, then move quickly across the night sky at high speeds, like a flying saucer. Marshall Davis has seen it and other black planes while towing the cars of the curious who get stuck in the desert.
If you're out towards the test site, you'll see all kinds of different light patterns that either move or are stationary. A lot of fast-moving aircraft.
Davis watched the F-117 at night for years before the Pentagon unveiled it. But that was during the Cold War. Now the Pentagon is under pressure to reduce spending. Tony Tolan, the general who flew the F-117, says spending for secret airplanes is still needed, and the public ought to trust the Pentagon.
There are other black programs, and one thing I do know about those that I have seen or been associated with, they're all exceptionally well thought out, and there is no huge waste of taxpayers' dollars, nothing like that whatsoever.
But Congress is less inclined to take the Pentagon's word for it now that the arms race is over. Aurora and others may be the last of the so-called black airplanes. Tom?
It's nice to have the general's reassuring words, Fred, but how much does all this cost?
We think that these planes were built at Lockheed Skunk Works in Burbank, California over the last 4 or 5 years at something over $1 billion a year, and they're probably finished with the program. Some 4,000 workers were involved, Tom, so anywhere between $6 and $8 billion.
Thank you very much, Fred Francis, tonight at the Pentagon. Tomorrow's Daily Difference.
Be asking yourself that. Well, meet one woman who says they do. She says she knows because she saw one in her backyard.
It was so close. It was just hovering barely above the treetops.
Diane says she's had 4 experiences with UFOs. She says the first happened while she was lying on a picnic table behind her New Jersey home.
I sat up then to get a better look at it, and I wasn't scared. I just sat there and thinking to myself, even at the time, wow, what an imagination, because I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
She says it disappeared quickly. She panicked and went into the house for a cigarette. But on another occasion, she says she saw alien beings.
Oh, I remember them very vividly. They're smallish,
2 feet tall.
3 to 4 feet tall, and very slightly built with very large bald heads. Very, very large, black, almond-shaped eyes, with no pupils.
But this time, Diane says the beings didn't disappear. She claims to remember lying on a table, nude, while the creatures conducted experiments on her.
Specifically, skin scraping, bone samples, body part samples, hair.
Was there evidence of it when you...
I have a scar on my shin.
You discover on your body odd-looking scars. Usually this round scoop mark, which looks like somebody took a little tool and just lifted a layer of cells.
Bud Hopkins is considered an expert on UFOs. He says many of the people who report alien encounters claim to have become human guinea pigs.
What seems to be absolutely central is that the UFO occupants are deeply interested in human genetics and in our DNA and in our reproductive processes.
This is a needless fear, and it's being spawned by well-intentioned people who are caught up in a dangerous game.
But Philip Klass says there are no flying saucers, no UFOs, and no alien beings. He's even written a book disputing their existence.
There is far greater danger to the average American of being kicked in the head by one of Santa Claus's reindeer at Christmas time than there is of being abducted by an ET.
But don't try telling that to Diane. She says she doesn't know why she saw what she did in her backyard. She just knows she did.
I couldn't convince you. I don't intend to convince anybody. My intention is only to let people know that this is happening and to give them food for thought.
Now, Diane says she suffered from insomnia immediately after her first UFO experience, but she says she eventually changed her way of thinking and simply accepted what happened to her, although she says she can't figure out why her.
Well, I don't know who to believe, but I'm sleeping with the lights on tonight.
It's the Spielbergization of America. That's what we call it.
That's it for Nightcast on this Sunday. We sure thank you for joining us.
Stay tuned for Jim Hill and Sunday Sports Final. Have a good week.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
On California Mysteries tonight, UFOs. People claim to have seen them hovering all over the world.
But in this 9 News Extra, we find there is an area very popular with extraterrestrials. Southern California's high desert. Kerry Berglund is live with an explanation. Kerry.
Well, I don't know if I got an explanation for you, Jerry, but I've got a terrific story. What better place to begin a look at UFOs than here at Griffith Observatory? Now, whether or not you can really look up in the heavens and see for yourself, this is a great spot, but whether or not you believe there are actually UFOs up there, or whether you're convinced that there are none, there are people out there that say they've not only seen them, they've traveled with them. So this is where we begin our travels. But we've got to transport now to where the most sightings have been seen in Southern California, to the high desert. Fasten your seatbelt.
Anybody on the planet can have a sighting, as millions of people have. Coming into Yucca Valley, there were about 6 or 7 saucer-shaped craft right over that area, just hovering in the sky.
So I went to get on the craft, and when I touched the handrail, I got one heck of a jolt. About 15 minutes later, hatch door opened, green sky and 2 suns. And I knew it was not Kansas City. The whole purpose was not a joyride, but to show me what is possible for a civilization 600 years advanced to ours.
Al Wilcox, UFO contactee.
Judging from what we learn, anybody could have had that experience and not really know about it consciously.
Gabe Green, founder and president of the Amalgamated Flying Saucer Clubs of America. Gabe and Hal are pioneer contactees. Their journey began nearly 40 years ago. Both men are on a single-minded life mission to spread the word and knowledge they say they've received from extraterrestrial beings.
The larger craft, as a rule, will remain hovering out in space, and it's usually only the scout craft that operate close to the surface. If you see a brilliant object come down at fantastic speed and then hover and then zigzag back and forth and then zoom up into the heavens, you can suspect that that wasn't a meteor.
While Gabe has seen UFOs, Hal says he's actually been on board a craft. And they say there are upwards of 120 different species of extraterrestrials, but that they've only had direct contact with one type, human beings.
Human beings, no tentacles out the left nostril, human beings.
But they look like human beings.
They are human beings, they just don't look like human beings, they are human beings.
The more advanced ones can change their appearance, but the more advanced ones are in the likeness and image of God, or what we would call man, whereas we are human, or a cross between a man and animal.
They say Earth is one of many planets populated by humans, but that our intergalactic ancestors are far advanced of our civilization.
Unlike our planet, they do not allow for the disease called old age. They do not allow for other diseases either, nor do they allow for obsolescence.
The space people are here to help us transcend this critical period in our evolution by sharing with us their knowledge about their sciences, about their economic system, about their political system.
Does it matter to you that so many people probably think you're crazy?
Oh yeah, it matters a great deal to me. And I tell people, look, if you see something up in the sky and you say anything about it, first of all, your wife will leave you. Your boss will fire you, your friends won't speak to you anymore, and it gets better after that. My intellectual advice to another person would be to keep your mouth shut.
People who say that UFOs aren't real, who say that there is not enough evidence, what I say, and I get real adamant about this and I get angry about it as well, is I look at these people and say, what the hell constitutes proof?
Sean Morton, UFO expert and researcher. Sean has traveled around the world talking to people who have experienced UFOs and ET contact. He shares photographs from his library with us.
Right here you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 actually maneuvering. This was witnessed by almost 1,000 people on the Pensacola Bridge. There are 2 rings at the bottom of the ship, which the Goddard Space Flight Test Center said resonate at 7.83 hertz. And that seems to be the gravity wave that the ship rides on. It looks very much like a flying, kind of like a flying crown. We really don't know that much about this particular group of aliens. They don't tell anybody where they're from or what they're doing. We've had presidents of the United States see these things, but their testimony doesn't count. We've had airline captains, we've had generals, we've had people from all walks of life in the military see these things, but their testimony doesn't count. We have literally hundreds of hours of videotape and 8mm film and 35mm photographs, but of course that doesn't count.
This ridge of rocks marks the spot that it landed.
And off in the distance, another landing site. But why the high desert?
There's simply less people there. And that when the ships are going to come down and do some kind of investigation, it is less dangerous for them. In essence, they're not going to get shot at or chased by a jet.
This is the main vortex area of the North American continent. There are 6 such places on the planet. The nearest one from here would be Easter Island or Stonehenge, England. Both are a long walk.
I see many of the pioneer contactees are dead and gone, and they're no longer around to communicate their message. It's like Hal and I were saying earlier today, it looks like we are about the last of the Mohicans. We are being monitored by the extraterrestrial beings on a constant basis, and they are observing, and you might say, smile because you're on cosmic camera.
Now, now, this may not have convinced you one way or another, but certainly UFOs are one of California's mystery with all the activity claimed to go on in the desert, but they're also one of the world's mysteries. UFOs are claimed to have been seen in hundreds of metropolitan cities all over the world. Of course, now we have to look at what we've done over the past 2 days and remind you, too, that the ghosts on the Queen Mary, they tell us, are good ghosts. And the people that say they've talked and traveled with aliens say that most of them are good aliens here to help us and try to direct us in the right direction for progress, although they say that some aliens are not so good, some are evil. Over the past 2 nights, we've taken a look at just 2 of California's unexplained mysteries. There are many more still out there. Reporting live from Griffith Observatory, I'm Kerry Berglund. Back to you in the studio. Jerry, Tawny, give you any food for thought?
Certainly did.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going to keep it to ourselves.
Challenging phenomenon. I'll talk to you later, Gary.
All righty, Jerry.
Thanks, Kerry. Bill Clinton
I was met at the door by an alien being.
We'll take you to America's UFO capital.
It is an intense area for UFO activity.
And we'll talk to level-headed scientists who admit we're not alone.
There are guardian angels or guardian extraterrestrials, or whatever you want to call them, who are looking over each and every one of us.
Exclusive Alien Nation. Everyone, I'm Maureen O'Boyle. Welcome to A Current Affair for this Thursday, April 23rd. Tonight, we're going to examine a subject that has sparked more controversy and argument than almost any other.
Gulf Breeze, Florida, just 2 miles long and half a mile wide. A tiny coastal town situated on the shores of Florida's Panhandle. A town that seems to have been selected by visitors, but not just any tourists.
It is an intense area for UFO activity. There's no doubt about that.
They are interested in us helping the world become aware.
The matter was going down, or the craft was going straight up.
Gulf Breeze has become a center for UFO activity. Residents are determined to find out why. In the last 12 months, they've documented 122 unexplained sightings, an average of 1 every 3 days. Last week, we sent our producer, Lila McMurray, and a crew to investigate the UFO phenomenon in Gulf Breeze, Florida. And in the evening on 2 consecutive days, they saw what can legitimately be described as unidentified flying objects. On the sands overlooking the Gulf of Mexico, our crew videotaped these incredible pictures.
Wide! There goes! Wide! I'm talking to it. Okay, then who's got a light?
For the right side of it.
We were looking over the water up in the sky, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this red light appeared. I was kind of shocked by it because I didn't see it coming from the ground, or I didn't see it coming up, down, anywhere. It just appeared. And someone handed me binoculars. And when I looked through the binoculars, I could see a ring of 6 red lights.
Our crew is UFOs. Are they real? Well, surveys show nearly 50% of you believe that UFOs do exist. After this program, that number might be a little larger. While we were investigating this exclusive story, A Current Affair went to Gulf Breeze, Florida, a town known as one of the most active UFO areas in the country. While we were there, our cameras captured something unexplainable.
Wide! Look, there it goes! It's speeding. It's like it's moving. It's blinking! Come on, closer!
Yeah.
Come on! Come back! It's signaling, I'm telling y'all.
We aren't the only ones intrigued by those mysterious lights. Robin Dorian met some dedicated sky watchers when she visited the town they call UFO Central.